Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun in-process model kit review, we are looking at Tamiya's 1/48 scale MiG-15 BIS. This kit from Tamiya debuted in the mid-1990s. This is Tamiya kit number 61043. Just a quick history of the MiG-15. In November of 1950, U.S. fighter pilots encountered the Soviet-built MiG-15 for the first time, and it really came as a shock to the Western powers. It had very good performance, even when compared with North America's F-86 Sabre. At the end of World War II, Britain gave the Soviet Union several copies of their Neen turbojet, and a version of the Neen turbojet is what powered the MiG-15. Like the Sabre, the swept wings on the MiG-15 were inspired by German World War II era research. Top speed on the MiG-15 was Mach 0.9. It had a service ceiling of over 30,000 feet or 10,000 meters, and it was armed with two 23mm cannon and one 37mm cannon. In this video, we'll be looking at the kit instructions and going through those. We'll look at any aftermarket parts used in this build. We'll take a look at the detailing on the smaller parts and talk about that. We'll look at the options that are included in the box with this kit. We'll look at the fit of the major components. We'll talk about the surface detailing in the kit. We'll also take a look at the clear part and talk about the quality and transparency and fit of those. We'll look at the marking options that come in the kit. We'll take a look at the decals themselves, and we'll talk about the quality of those, and I will give my conclusions at the end. Looking at the kit instructions, step 1 covers the cockpit assembly. This is fairly well detailed. The only addition that I would recommend is adding a pilot's seatbelt. There's no decal for the instrument panel, so you will have to detail paint the dials on the instrument panel. This kit came with some extras, and the first extra we'll look at is the Squadron True Details interior set for the kit. I don't plan on using all of these parts, but the seat itself looks really nice, and it has the seat belts molded into it already. This is a picture of the kit seat, so it's not terrible either. It's certainly usable. One nice thing in the cockpit, it does come with a very nice pilot figure if you wanted to use that. Another set of extras that I got for this kit is the Edouard interior dress-up set in photo-etched metal. This is actually for the trumpeter MiG-15, but a lot of these parts should be usable. The main thing I'm looking to use here is the instrument panel, which is pre-painted. That should come out very nicely. And I'll save these seat belts for a future build. Step 2 covers trapping the interior and the splitter between the front fuselage halves. Looking at the fit of the fuselage halves, I think you should be able to get a pretty nice seam on the top of the kit. The splitter is going to look nice inside there. And I think the lower seam should clean up pretty nicely as well. Step 3 covers the cannon armament. It also covers installing the nose weight. And thankfully that part is included in the kit. So that's a nice feature. This should not be a tail sitter when it's complete. Step 4 just covers the wing assembly. I have dry fit these together and they fit very precisely, very nicely. Step 5 covers the underwing ordnance and fuel tanks. It also covers mounting the wings to the fuselage. Dry fitting these parts, it seems like you should be able to get a filler-free join between the wings and the fuselage. That should turn out very nicely if you take your time. Step 6 just covers the nose wheel, and I don't anticipate any problems here. In step 7, we're building the main landing gear. Looking at the detail parts, there are a few ejector pin marks, but those are on the inside of the gear doors, and they should not be visible on the finished kit. The landing gear themselves will just require a little bit of seam cleanup, but the detail on these should look really nice once these are painted. In step 8, we're just mounting the main landing gear to the lower wings. In step 9, we are assembling the Neen engine. This comes on its own dedicated sprue, and looking closely at the detail parts, these look pretty decent. This kit in general is not overly detailed. So if you want kind of a basic diorama with the engine exposed, you certainly could do that. Although if you want to go crazy, you might want to get a resin replacement for the engine. In step 10, we're continuing on with the engine assembly. I don't anticipate any problems here. And just to note, if you're building the kit with the fuselage closed up, you really don't have to paint these parts. In step 11, we're mounting the engine to the front fuselage section. We're also mounting the clear parts and the boarding ladder. Looking at the clear parts, these look very nice. They're not overly thin or overly delicate, but they should look good on the finished kit, and I anticipate them fitting very well. The framing on these is raised enough that it should be fairly easy to mask the clear parts before painting. In step 12, we're assembling the rear fuselage, and if you're displaying the kit with the engine exposed, you'll be building the tail section dolly as well. Looking at the fit of the major parts here, I think you should be able to get a very clean seam on the underside of the fuselage. Looking at the top of the fuselage, you should also be able to get a very clean seam on this section. And dry fitting the elevators to the vertical tail, the fit here looks excellent as well. In step 13, we're just mounting the rear fuselage to the front fuselage. In dry fitting things preliminarily, the fit here seems okay. I wouldn't say it's superb between the rear fuselage and the front fuselage. And from the start, I think you should build this kit either with the intent of having the engine exposed or with the intent of having the fuselage closed up. If you're going to build this kit with the engine compartment closed up, I would suggest gluing the front of each fuselage half to the rear of each fuselage half and really focusing on this seam and doing a very nice job on this and cleaning it up. Looking at the marking options, there are 4 marking options included with this kit. The first one is for a Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force MiG-15. There's a color 3 view of this aircraft on the box top. The second marking option is for a Soviet Air Force MiG-15 in 1951. And this is the box art plane, so you have a reference there. The third marking option is a natural metal MiG-15 in 1951. This is the simplest paint scheme of the marking options. The final marking option is for a Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force Korean War MiG-15 from 1951. And this one sports the red tail, and there is a side view of this aircraft on the box top as well. Looking at the decals themselves, these were printed by ScaleMaster. They do seem to be in register, they seem to be opaque, and I'm hoping that these decals go down nicely. Historically, I've had a lot of trouble with Tamiya decals, so we'll see how these perform on the final build. Looking at the surface detailing of this kit, I would say it's somewhat minimalist. What's there is consistent, it is engraved, and it looks decent, but this kit is certainly not rivet heavy, and it doesn't have the finesse of detail of some of the modern kits. In conclusion, this MiG-15 kit from Tamiya looks like a very straightforward build. It is not overly parts heavy. This is a kit that I could recommend to somebody looking to build their first 1/48 scale jet aircraft. I would recommend making the decision early on whether you're going to build the kit opened up or closed up, and then proceed accordingly. If you're going to build this kit with the fuselage closed up, I anticipate this being a very quick build. If you're not going to use the pilot figure in the build, I would recommend installing some sort of seat belts to the stock seat. And I would recommend an aftermarket instrument panel for this kit. That would save you some time as far as detail painting all of the dials and such. Those items aren't necessary, that's just my personal preference. I think this kit would look great in a display of Korean War era jet aircraft. Well, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you have built Tamiya's MiG-15 in 1/48 scale, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.